10 Foods Queen Elizabeth II Absolutely Hated. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're pulling back the velvet curtain on Buckingham Palace and diving into something deliciously scandalous. The foods that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II simply refused to eat. Now, you might think she's the Queen of England, she could eat anything in the world. Lobster flown in from Canada? Done. Champagne from the finest French vineyards? Every Tuesday. But behind all that royal splendor was a woman with very strong opinions about what went on her plate. From bizarre royal bans to lifelong food feuds, today we're counting down the top 10 foods Queen Elizabeth II absolutely hated, starting from number 10 and working our way down to the one food she despised above all else. Let's get into it. Number 10. Garlic. Kicking things off at number 10. Garlic. Now, garlic lovers, brace yourselves, because in the royal household, garlic was practically banned. Former royal chef Darren McGrady, who cooked for the Queen for over 11 years, has spoken openly about this. The Queen and the royal family as a whole wanted absolutely nothing to do with garlic in their meals. And honestly, when you think about it, it makes sense from a royal etiquette standpoint. The Queen was constantly greeting dignitaries, meeting ambassadors, greeting the public. You can't exactly lean in for a handshake smelling like you just devoured a bowl of pasta aglio e olio, but it wasn't just about the smell. By most accounts, she genuinely disliked the taste of it too. Garlic was considered too bold, too overpowering, and the Queen's palate preferred delicate, refined flavors. So, if you were cooking for Her Majesty, garlic was the first thing to disappear from your pantry. Number 9. Onions. Right alongside garlic. At number 9, onions. Sensing a theme here? The Queen had a strong aversion to anything in the allium family. That's the plant family that includes garlic, onions, leeks, and shallots. If it was pungent, if it lingered on the breath, if it had that sharp, biting flavor, the Queen was not interested. Darren McGrady confirmed that onions were also off the royal menu, and chefs had to get creative to bring depth and flavor to dishes without relying on one of the most common cooking ingredients in the world. Think about that for a second. No garlic, no onions. That eliminates, like, 80% of recipes from most of the world's cuisines. French cooking? Good luck. Indian food? Forget it. Italian? Only if you completely rethink it. The royal kitchen had their work cut out for them every single day. Number 8. Starchy pasta and potatoes at formal meals. At number 8, starchy foods like pasta and potatoes, at least when it came to formal dining. Now, this is a nuanced one. The Queen wasn't completely opposed to potatoes. She reportedly enjoyed simple jacket potatoes on relaxed informal occasions. But pasta, that was largely absent from formal royal menus. The Queen's preference was for lighter fare. Heavy, starchy meals that could make you feel sluggish and full were not her style, especially during long state banquets where she had to remain sharp, alert, and fully present. Her philosophy around food was actually quite practical. Eating was about sustenance and pleasure, yes, but never excess. She reportedly kept her meals light and purposeful. No heaping bowls of penne, no second servings of mashed potatoes at the state dinner table. Refined, light, and elegant, that was the royal standard. Number 7. Eggs. Number 7. Eggs. More specifically, overcooked or strongly flavored egg dishes. The Queen was famously particular about eggs. She didn't enjoy dishes where the egg was the star, things like heavy omelets, scrambled eggs with strong additions, or anything with a sulfurous smell from being cooked too long. Royal insiders have noted that eggs needed to be prepared just so, and even then, they weren't her favorite food. She much preferred the texture and flavor of lighter proteins, like fish or well-prepared meats. It's a very British irony, isn't it? A nation that gave the world the full English breakfast, with its eggs, bacon, and beans, had a monarch who'd rather skip the eggs entirely, though, to be fair, she was absolutely loyal to her morning bowl of cereal. More on her actual favorites another time. Today, we're firmly in dislike territory. Number 6. Rare or bloody meat. Halfway through our countdown, at number 6, rare or bloody meat. The Queen reportedly had a strong preference for her meat to be well cooked, And when it came to game and red meat served at the palace, medium to well done was the expectation. Bloody rare steaks were simply not to her taste. Now, this contradicts a lot of fine dining culture, where a perfectly rare steak is seen as the pinnacle of culinary achievement. Many world-class chefs would shudder at cooking a steak past medium, but the Queen had her preferences, and in her house, her rules applied. Interestingly, she did enjoy venison and game from the Balmoral estate, but always properly cooked through. There was nothing fashionably rare about royal dinner time, and honestly, who's going to argue with the Queen about how she takes her steak? Not me. Number 5. Overripe or exotic tropical fruits. At number 5, overripe or strongly scented tropical fruits. The Queen was known to enjoy fresh fruit, strawberries from the garden, a perfectly ripe plum, a classic British apple, but highly fragrant, overripe tropical fruits were not her thing. Fruits like durian, the notoriously pungent Southeast Asian fruit, or very ripe mushy mangoes wouldn't have stood a chance at the royal table. Her fruit preferences leaned toward the fresh, crisp, and familiar. A bowl of tropical fruit salad swimming in overpowering sweetness? Pass. This also connects to her broader food philosophy: moderation, freshness, and simplicity over bold and overwhelming flavors. The Queen had a remarkably consistent palate throughout her life. Clean tastes, proper presentation, nothing too extreme. Number 4. Foie gras. Now we're getting into interesting territory. At number 4, foie gras. While foie gras, the luxury French duck liver pate, has long been a fixture of high-end European cuisine, it was actually removed from official royal menus, and there are a couple of reasons for this. First, the Queen had strong feelings about animal welfare. Foie gras production involves force-feeding ducks or geese, which is considered by many to be cruel, and the Queen, as a well-known animal lover, was reportedly uncomfortable with its presence at royal banquets. Second, and more practically, she's said to have simply found the taste too rich and heavy for her liking. Under her reign, foie gras was quietly phased out of state dinners, a small but meaningful royal decree that spoke to her character. It's one thing to avoid a food because you dislike the taste. It's another to remove it out of principle. The Queen managed to do both at once. Number 3. Shellfish in certain contexts. At number 3, shellfish, particularly when traveling or at certain public engagements. Now this one has a fascinating backstory. The Queen didn't hate all shellfish in all contexts, but she had a firm royal rule: never eat shellfish when traveling abroad or at public events. Why? Food safety. Shellfish, particularly oysters, mussels, and clams, carry a significant risk of food poisoning if they're not perfectly fresh or properly handled. And for the Queen, the head of state, the face of the British monarchy, the most recognizable woman on the planet, getting a bad oyster abroad was simply not an option. Imagine the headlines: Queen hospitalized with food poisoning at state dinner. The diplomatic fallout alone would be catastrophic. So, shellfish was placed on the restricted list for travel. But beyond the precaution, those close to her suggested she found heavily brined, strong shellfish like oysters and mussels too overpowering for her taste anyway. So the rule was both practical and personal. A rare royal 2-for-1. Number 2. Spicy food. We're almost at the top. And at number 2, it's spicy food. The Queen famously preferred mild, delicately seasoned cuisine. Heavy spices, chili heat, bold curry powders, fiery pepper sauces were simply not part of her world. Her palate was attuned to the classic British and French culinary tradition: herbs, light sauces, clean flavors that complemented rather than dominated. This became particularly notable during royal visits to countries where spicy food is a central part of the culture. When the Queen visited India, for example, the food prepared for her was significantly toned down in heat. Local dishes were adapted to remove the fiery elements that define so much of the subcontinent's incredible cuisine. And while some might see this as a missed opportunity, imagine turning down authentic Indian curry. You have to remember the Queen maintained an incredibly consistent, predictable diet throughout her 70-year reign. She knew what she liked. She knew what worked for her body. At 90-plus years old, still working full days, still sharp as a tack, Maybe the Queen was onto something with her gentle, unfussy approach to eating. Spicy food, a firm, polite, very British, no thank you. Number 1. Game birds with lead shot. And finally, drumroll please, the number 1 food Queen Elizabeth II absolutely hated. Game birds served with lead shot still in the meat. Okay, this one requires a little context, and it's wonderfully specific. The royal family have a long tradition of game shooting, particularly at Sandringham and Balmoral estates. Pheasant, grouse, partridge, these are staples of the royal sporting calendar. But game birds shot in the traditional manner are often retrieved with fragments of lead shot still embedded in the flesh. And the Queen? She despised biting into shot. The sudden crunch of a lead pellet in what should be a refined, elegant meal was, to her, absolutely unacceptable. It was the ultimate culinary betrayal, everything beautifully presented on fine china, and then crunch, a tiny ball of metal. Chefs and kitchen staff at royal estates were under strict instruction to carefully inspect and prepare game birds to remove any shot before cooking. This was taken extremely seriously, because while the Queen had a tolerance for many things, 70 years of political briefings, diplomatic tensions, and royal drama, she had zero tolerance for chomping down on a lead pellet over Sunday lunch. It's such a perfectly specific, wonderfully human royal quirk, a woman of extraordinary grace and composure, undone by a tiny piece of buckshot in her pheasant. Out raw, and there you have it. The top 10 foods Queen Elizabeth II hated, from garlic and onions all the way down to the ultimate royal nemesis, the errant lead shot in a game bird. What this list really shows us is that behind the crown, the corgis, and the castle was a woman with remarkably grounded, consistent, and very human food preferences. She wasn't chasing trends or trying exotic delicacies for the sake of it. She knew what she liked, she knew what she didn't, and she stuck to it for 96 years. Honestly, respect. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments which of these surprised you the most. I'll be reading every single one. Until next time, eat well, live well, and maybe lay off the garlic before your next royal engagement. See you in the next one.